It is the greatest rags to riches story the desert has ever told. From a barren island discovered by a single gazelle to one of the richest places on earth, Abu Dhabi has risen from sand to skyscrapers in barely a century. Today, its sovereign wealth funds surpass $1.5 trillion, with investment interests across the globe. Behind it all stands a ruling family unlike any other. Their rise to power was soaked in blood, wars, economic ruin, and resurrection. The House of Al Nahyan.
Abu Dhabi isn't just a city, it's a global hedge fund with a skyline.
The UAE has saved up over $1.3 million per citizen. The country will never become poor.
The Arabian Desert is one of the harshest places on Earth. An endless sea of sand called the Empty Quarter, where temperatures can kill a man in hours and water is more precious than gold. For centuries, a powerful group of nomadic Arab tribes known as the Bani Yas fought, starved, and somehow survived by clinging to a hidden green oasis deep in the southern dunes. A crescent of palm groves and sweet wells they called 𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐦. Then, in 1761, a single gazelle led a young sheikh named Diab bin Isa across shallow coastal waters to a barren island. There, against every law of the desert, they found fresh water. He named the place Abu Dhabi, father of the gazelle. Within decades, that island became their fortress, and a great mud castle called Qasr al-Hosn became the beating heart of their new coastal stronghold. But the throne itself remained a blade. Brother killed brother, cousin killed cousin. By the 1850s, the ruling line had fractured once more. Said bin Tanoon is the ruler, and he rules with absolute obedience. When a respected tribal elder dares to question him, Said orders the man seized and executed on a fabricated charge. At first light, the elders confront Said in the Majlis. He is deposed before the sun clears the horizon. The throne is empty. As far as they are concerned, there is but one man that can take the throne. His name is Zayed bin Khalifa. Zayed bin Khalifa was born into that storm. His father, Khalifa bin Shakhbut, had been murdered at a feast when Zayed was barely 10. The boy grew up in 𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐦 and Buraymi, learning the desert's laws: read the stars, ride without rest, strike first, or die. He became a master falconer, a feared raider, and a mediator who could silence feuding tribes with a single word. By his 20th year, the elders already watched him. In 1855, they choose him. At 20 years old, Zayed bin Khalifa becomes ruler of Abu Dhabi.
Even as a young man, Zayed carried the weight of destiny. Tall, steady-eyed, and spoke little, but acted with absolute certainty.
He now holds the throne, but the realm is still fractured. Tribes chafe under old wounds. Qatar raids the west. The Pearling Fleet is vulnerable. The British watch every move. Zayed sees it all. He is ambitious. He is ready. The conquests are about to begin. Zayed bin Khalifa now sits on the throne, but the desert still refuses to bow. In his first decade, he moves with ruthless speed. He marries his daughters into every major tribe, turning enemies into bloodkin. He reclaims the rebellious 𝐁𝐵𝐴 section in 1879, ending years of defiance without firing a shot. By the late 1870s, Abu Dhabi controls a vast inland empire stretching from 𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐦 to the edge of Oman. But a much bigger empire looms large. The British Empire at this moment is the greatest power on earth. It rules a quarter of the world's land, commands the seas, and protects the route to India like a jealous god. Zayed studies the gunboats in the Gulf and sees the truth. Alone, his sheikdom is prey. Allied with Britain, it becomes untouchable. When London offers the exclusive agreement of 1892, Zayed is the first trucial ruler to sign. In exchange for protection, he gives up the right to deal with any other foreign power. He has traded a little freedom for total security. The desert now has a new guardian. As a result of British protection, Zayed has the stable economy to grow. The pearling fleet swells to over 400 boats. Taxes pour in, £60,000 a year at the peak. He rebuilds Falaj irrigation systems across Al Ain, turning desert into gardens. He erects forts, digs new wells, and makes Abu Dhabi the undisputed master of the Trucial Coast. Population booms. Trade routes open. The once scattered Bani Yas become a single, wealthy nation. Zayed has taken a collection of tribes and forged them into an empire. It is 1909. Zayed the Great is 74 years old, still tall, still sharp-eyed, but the desert has finally caught him. For weeks, he lies in the cool shadows of Qasr al-Hosn, surrounded by his sons. He knows the end is near. On the night of May 18, he calls them to his bedside one last time, gives each a blessing, then slips away at dawn. The man who forged an empire from sand and blood is dead. The throne is empty and the knives come out. Soon, the succession crisis is about to erupt. It is 1909, and the throne stands empty. The eldest son, Khalifa bin Zayed, is the clear heir, but Khalifa refuses the crown, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He has watched too many brothers die by the dagger. He has seen too much blood spilled inside the family fort. The crown falls to the second son, Tahnoon bin Zayed. Polio has already twisted his body and left him childless. Tahnoon is quiet, cautious, and overwhelmed. He takes the throne in 1909 because no one else will. For 3 years, he rules from the shadows of Qasr al-Hosn, trying to hold the tribes together. But his illness grows worse. In 1912, Tahnoon dies naturally, without an heir. The line of succession is broken again. Power now passes to the third son, Hamdan bin Zayed. Hamdan is more popular than his brothers. He wins support through marriages and favors. But in 1922, the knives come out. His younger brothers, Sultan and Sakr, strike at night. They storm the fort, murder Hamdan in his sleep, and seize the treasury. They find it almost empty. Sultan claims the throne. The cycle of blood has returned with full force.
Power transfer in Abu Dhabi was never peaceful. There was no fixed law of succession. Every son could claim the throne, every mother a faction leader. In the desert, where rule meant survival, the throne was taken by whoever was fastest with a blade. That was the unforgiving culture of the region. Kill or be killed.
Sultan now sits uneasily on the throne as the country is about to be plunged into an economic crisis. For centuries, the Gulf has lived and died by pearls. Every summer, hundreds of dhows sail out from Abu Dhabi. Thousands of divers plunge 40 feet down, holding their breath for 2 full minutes, fighting sharks, jellyfish, and the bends. They bring up oysters by the sack. The best pearls go to Bombay, then Paris and London. Pearling is not just business, it is life. It feeds every tribe, pays every sheikh, and funds the very fort that Zayed built. By the early 20th century, Abu Dhabi's fleet numbers over 400 boats. Pearls are the only real wealth the desert has ever known. Then, a Japanese scientist named Kokichi Mikimoto changes everything. In 1893, he begins experiments on Ego Bay. By 1905, He inserts a tiny bead and a piece of oyster mantle tissue into a living oyster. The oyster coats the bead with nacre. In 1916, Mikimoto harvests the first perfectly round, flawless cultured pearl. He scales the technique fast. By the 1920s, Japanese pearls flood the world market, identical to natural ones, far cheaper, and produced by the millions. The collapse is sudden and total. Natural pearl prices crash. The Great Depression finishes the job. In Abu Dhabi, the dhows stop sailing. Divers sit idle on the beach. Captains cannot pay their crews. Whole families go hungry. The treasury that once overflowed with 60,000 pounds a year now sits empty. The pearling economy that built the emirate is dying in plain sight.
The pearling industry was the entire economy. When it vanished, the sheikhs lost their main source of revenue and their main way to buy tribal loyalty. Suddenly there was no money to hand out, no subsidies to keep the peace. The golden age was over.
Sultan now rules a realm that is literally running out of money. The treasury is drained. Tribes grumble for their share. Rival sheikhs smell weakness. The same fort that once rang with the sound of wealth now echoes with hunger and resentment. Something is about to break. Sultan bin Zayed now sits on the throne he seized in blood. It is 1922. The pearling industry is already dying. Japanese cultured pearls have flooded the market. Prices have collapsed. The Great Depression is coming. The treasury that once overflowed is now almost empty. One night in 1926, Sultan invites his half-brother Sakhr to dinner inside the fort. The meal is tense. Sakhr has been plotting. As the coffee is served, Sakhr draws a pistol and fires. Sultan collapses across the table. His young son Khalid is shot in the chest, but crawls away wounded into the night. Sakhr seizes the fort and declares himself ruler. The same family that swore oaths of loyalty has turned on itself again.
That dinner was the moment the Nahyan family descended into open murder of each other once more. It was no longer about tribes or territory. It was brother against brother inside the very fort Zayed had built.
Sakhr's reign is short and paranoid. He pays tribute to the Wahhabis to buy safety. He alienates the tribes. He suspects everyone. In 1928, Khalifa bin Zayed, the elder brother who had refused the throne, decides enough is enough. He rallies the powerful Manasir tribe, surrounds the fort, drags Sakhr out, and executes him in the sand. The cycle of murder seems unstoppable. Something has to break this cycle, and that something is about to come from the one person no one expected: a woman. Her name is Salama bint Budi al-Qubaisi. She was born into the powerful Qubaisat tribe, the same tribe that once rebelled against the Al-Nahyan. As a young woman, she was married to Sultan bin Zayed, one of Zayed the Great's sons. She bore him 4 boys. She watched her husband murdered at the dinner table in 1926. She watched his killer, Sakhr, seize the fort. She watched the family tear itself apart in an endless cycle of revenge. Through every assassination, every coup, every night of fear, Salama remained the quiet center of the storm. It is 1928. The fort is still stained with Sakhr's blood. The treasury is empty. The pearling fleets rot on the beach. The family is exhausted, suspicious, and armed. The elders fear another round of murder will finish the dynasty forever. Salama gathers her 4 surviving sons in the cool shadows of the fort. She makes them kneel before her. She places the Quran between them. In a voice that carries the weight of every death she has witnessed, she forces them to swear to Allah. No brother will ever again raise his hand against another brother. One by one, they repeat the oath and swear on the holy book.
That single moment may have saved the Nahyan dynasty. A mother did what generations of warriors could not. She imposed peace through sheer moral force.
For the first time in decades, the family can breathe in peace. Abu Dhabi is exhausted, bankrupt, and shrinking, but the desert still holds one last secret. Deep beneath the sand, something ancient is stirring, something that will change everything. The oath has been sworn, the cycle of murder has been broken. Now the family turns to the older surviving son. In 1928, at only 23 years old, 𝐻𝐸𝐺 bin Sultan is placed upon the throne of Abu Dhabi. The elders choose him precisely because he is cautious, disciplined, and still untouched by the recent blood.
𝐻𝐸𝐺 was a man forged by scarcity. Thin, ascetic with piercing eyes that missed nothing, he trusted almost no one.
He rules with ruthless caution. He hoards every rupee in iron chests inside the fort. Abu Dhabi is still desperately poor. Barasti huts, open sewers, families surviving on dates and dried fish. 𝐻𝐸𝐺 believes the desert has taught him one lesson above all. Wealth always vanishes, so he will never spend. But even this ascetic ruler knows the world is changing. In 1939, he signs the first oil concession with Petroleum Concessions Limited. Small signing fees begin to arrive. The drills go down into the sand. They come up dry, again and again. Setback follows setback. The money trickles in, but the black gold remains stubbornly hidden beneath the dunes. He has very little hope that anything will be found, but he has no idea that beneath his feet, the greatest fortune in Arabian history is about to wake up. 𝐻𝐸𝐺 signs the first oil concession in 1939. The British company Petroleum Concessions Limited pays him a small signing fee. They drill at Ras Sadr, dry hole. Year after year, the rigs go down and come up empty. The offshore rig at Shaif, operated by Abu Dhabi Marine Areas, punches through the seabed. On the morning of October 6th, the crew sees it, a thick black column shooting into the sky. The first commercial oil in Abu Dhabi history. The flow is strong. Within months, they confirm reserves large enough to transform the emirate. 4 years later, in 1962, the very first tanker leaves Das Island, loaded with Abu Dhabi crude. The desert has finally spoken.
That single strike at Shaif changed the destiny of the entire nation. It was the moment Abu Dhabi stopped being a poor sheikhdom and started becoming one of the richest places on earth.
Oil is finally flowing. By 1962, tankers leave Das Island every week, loaded with Abu Dhabi crude. The desert that once starved its people is suddenly rich beyond imagination. Money arrives faster than anyone can count, but almost none of it leaves the fort. 𝐻𝐸𝐺 bin Sultan watches the black gold flow and decides the lesson of the Pearling crash still holds. Wealth always vanishes. He refuses to build roads, schools, hospitals, or even a proper power station. He blocks banks, burns municipal records, and demands 20% of every foreign merchant's profit. The money piles up in iron chests, while the people stay poor. In the mid-1960s, his younger brother, Zayed, realizes enough is enough. He has built his own region into a green oasis with schools and hospitals, and he wants the same for the entire country. The family watches 𝐻𝐸𝐺 hoard millions while the emirate stagnates. Whispers turn to open frustration. The British, who once tolerated 𝐻𝐸𝐺, now see him as an obstacle. At dawn, the Trucial Oman scouts quietly surround Qasr al-Hosn. Zayed's sons and loyal cousins move into position. No shots are fired. A family letter is delivered to Shakbat: abdicate or face removal. After hours of tense negotiation inside the fort, Shakbat walks out, head high, and boards a plane to Bahrain, then Beirut. The bloodless coup is over in a single morning. Zayed bin Sultan is now ruler of Abu Dhabi.
Sheikh Shakbat, ruler of Abu Dhabi, an oil-producing state in the Persian Gulf, was deposed today by members of his family, the British Political Residence Office here announced. He was replaced by his brother, Sheikh Zayed.
The miser has been removed. The visionary has taken his place, and the desert is about to be transformed forever. Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan was born around 1918 in the date groves of Liwa. He grew up between the oasis and the contested forts of Buraimi, learning to read the stars, ride for days without rest, and speak with quiet authority. As a young man, he was already a master falconer and a daring raider. While his brother Shakbat hoarded every coin, Zayed was appointed Wali of Al Ain in 1946. With almost no money, he restored the ancient Falaj irrigation channels, tripled the water flow, opened schools, and built the first modern clinic. The people called him the Green Sheikh. Everyone saw it. This brother was different. On August 6, 1966, the moment finally arrives. He orchestrates a bloodless coup and ousts his brother. By evening, Zayed bin Sultan becomes ruler of Abu Dhabi. He wastes no time. Within months, he signs contracts worth $70 million to bulldoze the old squalor and build roads, hospitals, schools, desalination plants, and the first airport. He distributes Shakbat's hoarded millions to the people. He gives every citizen land, free healthcare, free education. He turns a medieval sheikhdom into a modern state almost overnight.
The Sheikhdom of Abu Dhabi smells of money. The new attaché case, the expensive toilet waters, the imported cigars, the new leather upholstery and $10,000 cars. And it buzzes with men's voices talking of money.
By 1968, Abu Dhabi is no longer poor. It is rising. But even as the skyline begins to climb, a shadow falls across the Gulf. A storm is coming. For more than a century, Britain has been the unseen master of the Gulf. Since the 1820 General Treaty, British gunboats have patrolled these waters, crushing piracy and imposing peace. British officers trained the Trucial Oman scouts, mediated border disputes, and kept Saudi Arabia and Iran at bay. The relationship has been cooperative, but never equal. The Al Nahyan have lived safely under the Pax Britannica. In January 1968, Britain is broke. The pound is devalued. The empire is too expensive. Prime Minister Harold Wilson makes the historic announcement. Britain will withdraw all forces east of Suez by the end of 1971. The protector that has stood guard for 150 years is leaving.
The British government announced today that it would withdraw entirely from Aden and South Arabia during the second half of this month.
Britain's exit created the largest power vacuum in the modern Gulf. The small sheikdoms were left exposed to Saudi expansionism and Iranian territorial claims. Without Britain umbrella, survival itself was uncertain.
Zayed stands on the ramparts of Qasr al-Hosn and watches the British ships disappear over the horizon. The clock is ticking. He has built an emirate, but now he must build a nation. Before Iran seizes the islands, before Saudi armies move, before the fragile sheikdoms fall one by one. It is February 1968. The British have just announced they are leaving the Gulf forever. Zayed bin Sultan knows the clock is ticking. Late one night, he drives to Dubai. Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum of Dubai waits for him in a modest majlis overlooking the creek. No aides, no guards, just two men and the weight of history. Zayed speaks first, telling Sheikh Rashid that if they remain separate, they will be swallowed by Saudi expansion and by Iranian ambition. Rashid listens in silence and agrees. They shake hands over strong Arabic coffee.
The secret meeting between Zayed and Rashid was the true birth of the UAE. Two powerful rivals chose unity over pride. It was the moment vision defeated centuries of suspicion.
The Dubai Agreement is born. The United Arab Emirates begins.
The rulers of 9 Persian Gulf sheikdoms agreed early today on a provisional organization of the federation they formed last February.
Zayed and Rashid travel between emirates, persuading, promising, compromising. Bahrain and Qatar pull out. On December 2nd, 1971, 6 rulers gather in Dubai. They sign the provisional constitution. Abu Dhabi becomes the permanent capital. Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan is elected president. Sheikh Rashid becomes vice president. The United Arab Emirates is born. Zayed has united the sheikdoms, but the British are gone. Iran is angry. Saudi Arabia is watching. The real test of the union is only just beginning. The United Arab Emirates is born on December 2nd, 1971. 7 proud sheikdoms have agreed to become one country, but the union is fragile. The Northern Emirates are desperately poor. There is no federal army, no central budget, no shared institutions. Tribes still owe loyalty to their own rulers. Then, on the very eve of independence, Iran strikes. November 30th, 1971. Iranian troops storm the islands of Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb. The islands have been claimed by Sharjah and Ras Al Khaimah for centuries. Iran seizes them by force. Sharjah's ruler is forced to sign a humiliating agreement on Abu Musa. Ras Al Khaimah loses the Tumbs entirely. Iranian flags rise over the islands. The young UAE wakes up to its first international crisis.
Iranian troops landed today on 3 disputed islands strategically situated in the Persian Gulf. The trucial state of Ras Al Khaimah immediately protested that 2 of the islands, Greater Tunb and Lesser Tunb, had been invaded and occupied.
Zayed does not hesitate. He opens Abu Dhabi's treasury and begins pouring money into every corner of the federation. He builds roads, schools, hospitals, and power stations from Ras Al Khaimah to Fujairah. He pays salaries, funds development projects, and keeps the union alive with oil wealth. Abu Dhabi becomes the banker of the new nation.
The Iranian seizure was the first real test of the UAE. It showed the world and the sheikhs themselves that this union could only survive if Abu Dhabi was willing to share its riches, and Zayed understood that immediately.
But a new storm is gathering on the horizon between Israel and the Arab world. And the tiny new nation of the UAE is about to step onto the world stage. Egyptian and Syrian tanks storm across the Suez Canal and the Golan Heights. The Yom Kippur War has begun. Israel fights for its life. The Arab world rallies. On October 17th, OPEC makes its move. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates declare an oil embargo against the United States and any nation supporting Israel. The weapon is simple but devastating. Oil. They cut production by 5% every month until Israel withdraws.
The 6 largest oil-producing countries on the Persian Gulf announced a 17% price increase for their crude oil early today.
Abu Dhabi stands at the very heart of the decision. Zayed bin Sultan fully supports the embargo. He tells his fellow rulers that they cannot stay silent while their Arab brothers bleed. Abu Dhabi's oil becomes a political weapon. Tankers are turned away. Production is slashed. The world's factories begin to grind to a halt. Oil prices explode from $3 a barrel to $12 in a matter of months. Revenues quadruple overnight. Money floods into Abu Dhabi faster than anyone can count. With that money, Zayed begins the greatest building spree the Gulf has ever seen. He constructs roads, hospitals, schools, desalination plants, and the first modern airport. He funds housing for every citizen, free healthcare, free education. He pours money into the poor Northern Emirates to keep the young federation alive. Abu Dhabi becomes the banker, builder, and protector of the entire UAE. By the mid-1970s, the transformation is staggering. Abu Dhabi's population doubles. New cities rise from the sand. GDP grows by over 300% in 5 years. Schools, hospitals, and power stations appear almost overnight. The once poor sheikhdom is becoming one of the richest places on earth. By 1974, the young UAE is still fragile. Iran has seized the islands. Saudi Arabia quietly claims large parts of Abu Dhabi's southern desert, including the rich Zarara oil field. Border tensions are rising. Zayed knows the Union cannot survive another war. He flies to Jeddah to meet King Faisal. The two men sit alone. Zayed offers a painful compromise. Abu Dhabi will cede its share of the Zarara field and part of the border in exchange for Saudi recognition of full UAE sovereignty over Buraimi and Al Ain. Faisal accepts. The Jeddah Treaty is signed. Zayed has traded oil for peace and legitimacy. Saudi Arabia drops its territorial claims. The border is finally settled. Zayed has bought the young nation breathing room. The early 1980s become Abu Dhabi's golden age. Oil revenues are still high. Zayed pours the money into the federation. Highways link every emirate. New hospitals and universities open. Housing is built for tens of thousands. The once scattered sheikdoms start to feel like one country. Zayed understood that money alone was not enough. He used it to bind 7 emirates into a single identity. The Saudi treaty gave him the stability to do it. In 1976, he quietly creates the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, one of the world's very first sovereign wealth funds. He takes billions in surplus oil revenue and begins investing it across global markets, not for the glory of today, but for the survival of tomorrow. Zayed is planting the seeds of a financial empire that will one day be measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. It is a rainy day fund that he hopes he never will have to use. But little does he know, that day comes sooner than he thinks. The 1970s oil boom has made the Gulf rich beyond imagination. Prices hit $40 a barrel after the Iranian Revolution. Revenues flood Abu Dhabi. But the boom contains the seeds of its own destruction. The perfect storm is forming.
A commodities trader here in New York today said, "Put on your hard hat, the sky is falling." That comment came as oil prices tumbled toward their lowest level since the late 1970s.
In 1986, oil plunges below $10 a barrel. The world cheers cheaper gasoline. The Gulf feels the knife. Abu Dhabi's revenues collapsed by more than 70% in 3 years.
The crash was brutal for Abu Dhabi. Zayed had built entire welfare state on high oil prices. He had to make painful choices, delay hospitals, cut subsidies, slow the federation's growth. It tested leadership like nothing else.
The sovereign wealth funds he quietly created in the 1970s act as a cushion. It is about the only thing that prevents the entire UAE from collapsing. But the greatest blow is still to come, and it will be from an unexpected place. In the early 1970s, a brilliant and ambitious Pakistani banker named Agha Hassan Abedi dreams of building the world's first truly global third world bank. He needs massive capital and political protection. He finds both in Abu Dhabi. Zayed bin Sultan believes in Abedi's vision and becomes his most powerful backer. In 1972, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International is born. Zayed pours in hundreds of millions. By the 1980s, BCCI operates in 73 countries with more than 400 branches. It becomes one of the largest private banks on earth. But behind the glossy facade lies a criminal empire: money laundering, arms trafficking, drug money, bribery of officials, and secret control of American banks. Then, in July 1991, the House of Cards collapses.
Britain will soon begin liquidating the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, selling assets and settling accounts 6 months after the scandal-ridden bank was shut down, its provisional liquidator said today.
Regulators in Britain, Luxembourg, and the United States simultaneously raid and shut down BCCI worldwide. The bank is accused of fraud on a scale never seen before: $13 billion in missing money, fake loans, and systematic deception. The impact is catastrophic. Abu Dhabi loses between $9 billion and $10 billion, one of the biggest single losses any government has ever suffered from a private institution. Zayed is personally humiliated. The family name is dragged through global headlines. For the first time, the ruler who turned sand into gold has been outsmarted.
BCCI was not just a bank, it was a multinational criminal organization. Zayed's blind trust in Abedi cost Abu Dhabi more than any war or oil crash ever did.
Zayed faces the disaster head-on. He settles with creditors, and he ultimately survives it. But he won't survive what is about to come. Abu Dhabi and Dubai are incredible places to visit. I enjoyed it every time.
Whenever I travel anywhere outside the US, one of the first things I do after landing is to turn on my VPN. That's why I use private internet access.
PIA hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection through a secure tunnel. It shields your data from prying eyes, whether you're at home, at a cafe, or traveling.
What I personally like about PIA is transparency. Their apps are 100% open source, and they operate under a strict no locks policy, and that's been independently audited. That means they don't track or store your activity.
You also get access to servers in 91 countries and all 50 US states, so you can securely browse, stream, or access region-restricted content wherever you are. One subscription covers unlimited devices, your laptop, phone, tablet, everything.
Go to piavpn.com/Phineas to get 83% off. That's just $2.03 a month, plus 4 extra months free. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's completely risk-free.
By 2003, Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan has ruled for 38 years. He has turned a medieval sheikhdom into a modern nation. In his later years, the desert finally claims its price. His kidneys fail. He undergoes 2 transplants in 2000 and 2003. He grows frail, but his mind remains sharp. He still receives visitors, still gives quiet counsel, still watches over the nation he built. Ramadan has just begun. Zayed slips into a coma in the early hours. The palace is silent. Doctors fight to save him, but the end has come. At 8:25 a.m., the announcement is made. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, father of the nation, has passed away at the age of 86. The entire country stops. Flags fly at half-mast. Businesses close. Mourning lasts 40 days.
لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صاحب السمو رئيس دولة الإمارات طيب الله ثراه، كان رجل دولة بكل ما في الكلمة من معنى. حياته في هذا التقرير.
His eldest son, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, is immediately sworn in as ruler of Abu Dhabi and president of the UAE.
Sheikh Zayed is expected to be succeeded by his eldest son, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, as Emirates president.
He inherits a prosperous, stable nation and a sacred responsibility to protect Zayed's legacy. In the years that follow, Abu Dhabi continues its astonishing rise. Skyscrapers climb higher, sovereign wealth funds swell past hundreds of billions. It is great now, but the Federation is about to be tested again. It is 2008. The global financial system is collapsing. In New York, the subprime mortgage bubble bursts. Lehman Brothers files for bankruptcy. Credit freezes overnight. Stock markets plunge. The worst recession since the Great Depression has begun. Dubai is caught in the perfect storm.
The Dubai Financial Market General Index slid 6.1% Tuesday to a 5-month low as concern deepened about Dubai World's ability to restructure its staggering debt. The index has tumbled 22% since the restructuring was announced November 25.
The Emirate had bet its entire future on an endless real estate boom. Burj Dubai, Palm Jumeirah, the World Islands. Debt ballooned to nearly $80 billion. When global liquidity dries up, Dubai World and its flagship company Nahyan stand on the brink of default. Construction halts, cranes freeze midair. The glittering dream city built on sand faces total collapse.
Dubai's model was pure leverage. They borrowed massively against future property sales that suddenly evaporated.
Abu Dhabi moves swiftly and decisively. In February 2009, Abu Dhabi injects $10 billion through the UAE Central Bank. Sheikh Khalifa and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed personally guarantee the support. In exchange, Abu Dhabi takes strategic stakes in key Dubai assets. The bailout prevents default and protects the reputation of the entire federation.
Dubai got a $10 billion lifeline from oil-rich Abu Dhabi to save one of its prize companies from imminent default Monday, calming fears for now about the city-state's shaky finances.
Dubai responds with quiet dignity and one of the most powerful symbolic gestures in modern Gulf history. The world's tallest skyscraper, originally named Burj Dubai, is officially renamed Burj Khalifa, forever bearing the name of the ruler of Abu Dhabi, who saved the city from collapse. Abu Dhabi emerges from the 2008 crisis stronger than ever. The sovereign wealth funds Zayed planted in the 1970s have grown into giants worth over $1 trillion. Diversification accelerates. Renewable energy, aerospace, tourism, finance. Abu Dhabi becomes a global investor, not just an oil exporter. The desert has learned to survive without relying solely on black gold. But a new threat is rising in the east. Iran's nuclear program, its missiles, its proxies in Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon terrify both Israel and the Gulf states. Quiet intelligence cooperation between Abu Dhabi and Israel has been growing for years. When the Trump administration offers a historic opening, advanced weapons, security guarantees, and economic partnership, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed seized the moment.
An historic step for Israel and its relations with its neighbors. Today at the White House, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the foreign ministers of the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain will establish diplomatic relations. Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump are set to hold a meeting at the White House, with a four-way meeting with the Emirati and Bahraini foreign ministers set to take place shortly afterwards.
Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed signs the Abraham Accords on behalf of the UAE. Bahrain signs alongside. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump stand witness.
This was not about ideology, it was about survival. Iran is the common enemy.
The Abraham Accords mark the beginning of a new order in the Arabian world. The map of the Middle East has been redrawn. Today, in 2026, Abu Dhabi stands as one of the wealthiest, most influential places on Earth. Its sovereign wealth funds manage well over $1.5 trillion. Per capita income ranks among the highest in the world. Skyscrapers tower over what was once a fishing village.
Over the first 9 months of 2025, January to September, Abu Dhabi's GDP grew by 5% year-on-year, while the non-oil economy expanded by 6.8% year-on-year.
At the center of this transformation is Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Sandhurst trained, a former fighter pilot, he has ruled Abu Dhabi since 2022. Under his watch, the UAE has built one of the most advanced militaries in the region.
They survived fratricide, colonial treaties, oil crashes, and family betrayals to build something that should not exist. A stable, prosperous, forward-looking Arab nation in one of the world's harshest environments.
But the story is far from over. Abu Dhabi remains a small country of fewer than 10 million people in a dangerous neighborhood. Oil, while still vital, will not last forever. Their greatest test may still lie ahead.
I am incredibly grateful for this channel and the audience that's grown around it. When I first graduated with my MBA, I actually wanted to work on Wall Street. I applied to a lot of firms and got rejected from most of them. So instead, back in 2020, I started this YouTube channel just talking about finance and telling stories about people and institutions that shape the markets. And over time, it kind of took on a life of its own. The channel grew, opportunities came in, I've been able to participate in investment projects and build partnerships and even start working on my own fund, all because of the distribution this platform creates. And along the way, a lot of people started asking me the same question: how do you actually build a channel like this? So, I recorded a 6-day quick launch program where I break down everything I know. How to treat YouTube as an asset, how storytelling works, and how my own production workflow actually looks behind the scenes. Most of you probably aren't trying to start a channel, and that's totally fine. But if you are, this might save you a lot of time. You can check it out in the link below. Because these days, having something you control, a channel, an audience, an asset, is more valuable than ever.